You are live. This is the very first live for, gee, 2022. Can you believe we're already in 2022? Uh, Happy New Year to everybody who's joining us live here at Circle Leadership HQ. Very excited to have you all join us, and those of you who choose to watch this after the fact. Uh, really appreciate your time and attention. 2022 is going to be an epic year. Why? Because we choose it to be. And really wanted to start off the new year with a bang and help people to understand how to get things happening fast. I find it fascinating in today's world, that there's so much stuff moving around us and everything's coming at us fast. But then how do we respond to that rather than react to it? Because you can react to something and you can respond to it. So how do we choose to respond to something like that when everything around us is happening so fast? The acceleration of technology is coming at us at a rapid rate. Everything else, forget the craziness of the world right now. And we're preparing for the next normal and then the next normal and the next normal that's going to come along at us. So how do we set ourselves up to respond for that? And take control of our own destiny, because whilst many of us can't predict the future, what we can do is choose to create our own future, and in that you can actually predict your own future that way by choosing to create it. So the best way to deal with everything that's coming at you fast is to learn how to execute fast, and be prepared to be able to make smarter decisions along the way that are going to suit you and your business and your life. So I wanted to take about 15 minutes this morning just to run through a live stream and share with you some of the work that we do with our clients in terms of how do we help them to execute fast as well. So firstly, I want to share with you guys, if I can share my screen here. I'll just bring up a screen I want to share with you guys here. Um, by the way, there's a workbook that all of you will have access to. If you want it in the comments as you're watching this pre or post, please feel free just to put a comment in there and say, hey, workbook or fast, and then I'll make sure that we get you a copy of this workbook. But back in 2018, we decided to do a case study. This is well before the pandemic and everything happened. And I worked with 25 business owners, leaders of small businesses of all different types of industries, and we worked through I wanted to find out what were the common challenges that they were having that we could be able to support them with, and in terms of their evolution and being able to stay relevant. And so for 4 months was in the kitchens, in the engine rooms with 25 business owners, leaders. And what was astounding to me is after looking at all the case studies and mapping out all 25 of the case studies, after the 4 months of spending with all those amazing business owners and leaders, is whilst they had some of their own challenges and different aspects of their business, they came down to 4 common challenges that every single one of those businesses had. And what we found was that there was a lack of clear goals and expectations across the organization. And the second thing we found was there was a lack of accountability in the people in the organization. And then there was a lack of culture and strategy alignment. And then the last thing, there was a lack of leadership depth and strength. So there wasn't enough leadership, like what we call bench strength in the organization. So what we decided to do then was, let's take a look at that. If we could build a process that would help business owners, leaders address those 4 challenges, we would be able to help them to evolve their businesses and themselves to stay relevant and productively transform their lives and the lives of the people that they serve. So we created a process, a system that actually helps create a culture and strategy alignment. It helps people focus on what matters most. And then it helps them build a culture and brand relationship in their organization. And last but not least, it would help them bust the myth that execution is hard. And that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you guys today, is just the last piece there, is how do we bust the myth that execution is hard? All right. So I want to run through that because there is this concept that, execution is everything. And it is. It's absolutely critical for your organization. You can have the world's greatest strategies, the world's greatest plans, everything that you have for your organization. But if you don't execute on it, it won't matter for anything. And there's a whole bunch of information in the workbook that you can have, but I wanted to run through with you just about how do we firstly and foremostly shift the belief that execution is hard. It's hard because we're trying to get people to shift behaviors in most cases. So I want to do a very quick run through on human behavior, uh, which is part of the process we work with our clients on to help them understand this. Because if we want to, first thing is if we want to execute at a far greater rate than we've ever have before, we have to start thinking about execution and strategy differently than we ever have before. So I just want to quickly run through this. I won't go into great detail with this part here, but so success, however you choose to define that for yourself, has come from your results. Now, your results that we know that the things that you have accomplished has come from your behavior. So I've taken these actions to drive these results and give me this success. So basically, behavior is just the actions I've taken. Now, what we know about human behavior for the past 200 years, basic psychology studies, written about in the Bible, the Greek philosophers, how far, like, you can go back as far as you like, is that how I think determines how I act. So as a person thinketh, think and grow rich, I think therefore I am. So my thinking causes me to behave in a certain way. So if we don't shift the thinking towards execution and how we go about executing our plans, we're going to keep getting the same behaviors and the same results we've always had. Hi, Barbara. Thanks for joining in. So just a few people joining us in on the live here. Yeah, so if we don't shift the thinking, then it's never going to change the behavior, right? So what we need to be able to do is think differently about execution and strategy. So when I just want to quickly touch on this, and we'll touch more on this in upcoming live streams, but success to an organization then is the fulfillment of the mission. It's who does your organization need to become then to achieve the vision of the world that you have. And then from that, we would then need to map out what must be accomplished to show that we have become that. The objectives and key results for our organization that we must accomplish to show that we've become that. Morning, Bill. And then once we've established what those objectives and key results are that must be accomplished to show that we've become that organization, we would then develop our tactical plan, our actions to achieve those objectives and key results. And what drives our behavior in organization? How we think, which in this case, of course, well, yeah, of course, we had to have a technical issue as we were going through this process. This is pretty exciting. Here's one of the exciting things about technology today is that we will hopefully be tolerant of the fact that technology doesn't always work as planned in the early stages. So my electronic whiteboard, my digital whiteboard, is now choosing not to play nice with me. Regardless, no big drama. We can fix that. So while I handle that tick, let me just reconnect my computer here. What I want to share with you, I'll jump over to because what I can share is back to the workbook. I have a backup plan. Well, my tablet decides to do what it wants to do. Here we go. Yeah, so with the human behavior component, if we want to look at our organization, we want to go to our mission and our objectives, and then we want to work out our action plans. Well, what drives behavior in an organization is values. So how we think about our business, what makes us unique the way we think about our business. And I will assure you that the organization that wins even in an infinite game is the one that outbehaves the other. And what drives behavior is our values. So get a Mac. Oh, here we go. Yes, I should get a Mac instead of a PC and a tablet, a Samsung tablet. Thank you, Apple people. But anyway, so with the actual, once we understand human behavior, what we want to be able to look at then is our objectives. And what we want to be able to map out is what are our objectives? And I've got it here. If you look at, we'll bring this here and I'll go to full screen. So if you understand what your values are in your organization, which will then help you behave in a way to create the world you see, then you've identified what is your mission of your organization, who you need to become. You need to then map out what are your objectives for the next 3 years. What must be accomplished to show that you have become the business that you need to become. And then once you've mapped out that for the next 3 years, you go, well, in the next 12 months, then what must we accomplish to show that we've become the things that we need to do in the next 3 years? So if we worked out that what needs to happen in the next 3 years, we go, well, what needs to happen in the next 12 months to be on track for what needs to happen in the next 3 years? And this is based on what must be accomplished. And then once we worked out what needs to happen in the next 12 months, so by the end of 2022, we can go, okay, great. What are the 3 key objectives, say for the first quarter of 2022, the one we're in right now, that must be accomplished to move us forward to the 12-month objectives, to move us towards the 3-year objectives, to become the organization we need to be in 3 years, to evolve and stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people that we choose to serve. And this is about reverse engineering this organization, because our strategy should be about becoming this organization. Strategy shouldn't be based on how do we generate revenue in our organization. That will be one of the objectives, no doubt, or how do we generate profitability. The end game is becoming this organization. When you make profitability your end game, you'll do anything to make money. And then you can grow very quickly, but you can also grow into obscurity or irrelevance. So if you want to evolve to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people you choose to serve, you need to work out who you need to become as a business to do that, and then build a strategy to build that business where one of the objectives might be your business performance, which most likely it will be. So I just wanted to touch on that part, because we find a lot of people get confused about, the purpose of business is to make money. The mission is to achieve our profitability. Well, your mission is to become the business that helps you stay relevant. The objectives are the ones that you need to accomplish to show you've become that. And financial performance will be one of those objectives, because you need fuel for your business. There's no question. It needs oxygen. It needs to breathe. And then what do we need in 12 months? And we get down to the 3 month, down to the quarter here. So when we get down to the 90 days, and then you work out, well, what are the key results for each of these objectives? So we have the objective and the key results, and we go, well, okay, great. All I've talked to you about here in this part of executing in your business is what must be accomplished. Because here's a kicker for you guys. Also, please, if you want to write anything down, write this down. What must be accomplished is mandatory. When we get there is arbitrary. As I mentioned earlier, we find that nobody can tell me what's going to happen in the next 3 years. Nobody has a crystal ball. So to plan on how we're going to do the next 3 years is a little bit, I want to say it's a bit careless, because we don't know what's going to happen. But what we can create for ourselves is what must be accomplished, ideally in the next 3 years, ideally in the next 12 months, and what must be done in the next quarter, because we know who we need to become to create the world that we see. So this is really important here in terms of priority. So I want to make sure that everybody understands this. What must be accomplished is mandatory. When we get there is arbitrary. So once we have that mapped out, then all we need to look at then is, this is what fast execution starts with, is focus, right? Focus on what matters most. What matters most is that these 3 things must be accomplished in this next quarter. So there's a business as usual stuff that you will do in your organization. But once you have this identified, here's the 3 things that matter most. You have a narrative now for the quarter, because words form a narrative and then numbers tell the story. Okay, so we want to form a narrative for our business, and then the numbers will tell the story. So your job as a leader is to make sure that the narrative and the story match. And the beauty of having this focus, we work with our clients, and what we find with them is once they have this very clear in their head as the innate focus on what matters most, it helps them avoid distractions. So anything else that you're doing that is not in alignment with these is a distraction. And this is supposed to be these 3 things should be what gives your organization traction in its ability to evolve and stay relevant. Anything outside of that is a distraction. Right? So when we sit there and go, oh yeah, but I have all this other stuff to do. Well, hang on, is that a distraction? What's the thing that's going to give you traction? And everything else outside that becomes a distraction. And the other second part to that is it helps you make smarter decisions then. So if you look at decide, the word decide means to cut. So now it helps you understand what you need to cut out and say no to, because you know what you're supposed to say yes to. Now you know clearly what the 3 things we must say yes to is. How do we accomplish these 3 things with these measures underneath to show that we have accomplished those things? So now we have an ability to avoid distractions. We can make smarter decisions, and we can also avoid the magical shiny object syndrome, because what happens is there's this amazing thing comes up, and people all of a sudden go, oh, look at that, and then we should go do that. Because what you don't have, well, sorry, let me rephrase that. If you don't have this in place, then you will be distracted, and shiny object syndrome is part of that distraction. You'll be distracted by those things that you actually have that grab your attention. But now, if you have three things clearly identified to focus on, your mind knows what it should focus on. Then when the shiny object comes up, you can now make a values-based or a value-based decision and go, hang on, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This has come up. Which one is more important? But in the absence of having this one up, you go, oh, look at this amazing thing. And we start working on that. So it's really important now that when you have innate focus on what matters most, you can make smarter decisions. You can avoid shiny object syndrome. You can avoid distractions. You can make plans to move forward on these things. So once you've got that clear focus, we want to make sure that we have a system of accountability. And we find an organization, which we talked about earlier, there's a lack of accountability in the organization. And one thing I challenge leaders on is to make sure that if you want more accountability from your team, understand how you are accountable to your team. And when we map out what your objective is and the key results, so it's X percentage, let's say 100% of this needs to be achieved to show that we've achieved it or become this, or sorry, fulfilled this objective. Then we need to work out who is going to be responsible for each of the actions in each of the key results, who and when. It's really important to understand who and when is going to be held to account for these things. I am accountable. I'm able to be held to account for these things. And it's who and when. And it doesn't have to be you, the leader, or each of these objectives, there'll be a leader and there'll be people who contribute to this. So it's really important to understand that we get everybody involved in the work, involved in decisions about the work, and who's going to do what, where, and when. So a system of accountability in your organization is critical. So you'll have focus, you'll have accountability. And it's about getting everybody involved in this process. And the leadership accountability is to make sure that we're holding meetings to hold people to account. You're accountable to making sure that these things get done. People will pay attention to what you pay attention to. So once you build your system of accountability, what we want to be able to do then is develop a simple plan, right? So focus, accountability, and simplicity. Too many times do I see a very complicated, convoluted plan about how to achieve things. And then we make them big and chunky. And the sad part of that is that it doesn't end up getting executed because we might block out time to do something, but it's such a big thing that people don't even know what to do, where to start. So when I challenge people to say, well, hang on, keep it a very simple plan. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and so on to achieve this key result. And it could be something really tiny that's a 15-minute thing. But far easier to block out a 15-minute thing, tick it off, get it done. And if that's the only thing you had to do this week, you're moving towards that key result to fulfill that objective. So keep the plan simple. Keep it into bite-sized pieces. And don't be afraid for them to be very small bits and pieces and simple steps. If you look at it and goes, this is so easy, it sounds easy to do. Well, that's great. You want it to be easy to do. So as you move forward with this easy to do action plan, it's critical then that we make sure that everybody can see it. So we want to develop a system of transparency where everybody can see all the actions. So here, I wonder if we can make this a little bit bigger. So this is ours. I'll show you this in a little bit more live in detail in a moment. But here's all the actions to achieve all these key results. And right now they've got my name against them. And you can see where they're being done. So everyone in our team can see what actions need to be done in relation to which key results and who's responsible for them and when they're due by. And then where they stand. So anyone can log in and see this action plan, this action register, if you like, of all the things that need to be done. So you need to make sure that all that simple plan and the accountability is then transparent for everybody to see, because this way nobody can hide, nobody can get caught out, because there's no need to, because we want to create a culture where people feel safe to put their hands up and go, hey, I'm falling behind on my objective or my key result, I need help. Right? So people can visually see where everybody is. Now this one's really good because we're slightly ahead of target here. But if this was below the line, it should be able for me to go, hey guys, I'm struggling with this particular key result. I need help. Or the leader or someone else in the team to see it, say, hey, Dave, I can see that you're a little bit behind there. Is there anything we can do to assist you, support you, help you to get back on track for this? Because we're all here to help each other win. We're all here to help lift each other up to achieve success. So we want to create a culture then of transparency where there's no need to hide, no need to protect your peace. There's no need to worry about anyone being able to see what it is you're working on. And then I'm going to bring this back down so we can more scalable size. So once we have focus, accountability, simplicity, and transparency in place for our organization, you can execute at a far greater rate than you ever have before. So simple step by step. So here's a simple plan. Identify what matters most this quarter, the 3 objectives that must be accomplished, and this forms the narrative for your quarter, right? So you let everyone know, here's the 3 things that matter most that we're working on. Then identify the up to 3 key results for each of those objectives, and you'll have a qualitative and a quantitative one. Oh, there he goes, the spelling error, beautiful, and something else. So you'll have 3, ideally no more than 3 key results for your objectives, okay? So make sure one's qualitative, one's quantitative, and probably something else. Then make sure that each key result is actually, those measures actually have a percentage number or dollar value beside them. Because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Then decide who's going to lead the specific key result, and then who are the contributors to it. And then get the lead to engage with the contributors to develop the step-by-step plan, because it's so important to get people involved in the work, involved in decisions about the work. And then assign the accountability, who and when the simple task is to be done. You can use a spreadsheet. We use a platform with all our clients that we hold them to account of all the work that they need to do to evolve their businesses and themselves to stay relevant. And then every week, review the tasks to be done. If not accomplished, you make sure you get the firm commitment from everybody and amend the date as required. Highlight the next week's actions. And this is a really important part when you're having your meeting around executing, and this in terms of you're holding your team to account, which is your accountability, is if you look at what all the actions that have to happen next week, you go, okay, hey, well, I'll pick on Bill because he's here. Bill, it shows that you have these 3 actions that you have to do this coming week. Is there anything that would stop you from getting them done this week? Anything foreseeable that is going to stop you from getting them done? And Bill will go, no, that's all. Nothing's going to stop me from getting those 3 things done, David. So that's awesome, Bill. Have you got time blocked out in your calendar? Is there any particular time when you're going to work on these? Have you made sure that you're all set up? And is there anything you need from any of us to help you get this stuff done? And Bill will go, yep, it's already mapped in my calendar. I already got blocked out, and I've already spoke to Barbara, and she's going to help us get this last piece of the thing done. So when we get together next week, it's very hard for Bill to come back with any reason as to why he couldn't get those things done. So it needs to have a good reason as to what would happen, right? So everyone's confirmed and identified their ability to plan. Bill's like, nope, all good. Okay, Bill, so you're good to get all your actions done for next week, mate. Thank you very much. Any help and support that you need from us, just let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to hearing how things went when we catch up next week. And then rinse and repeat every week, every quarter. This is how you will have fast execution in your business. And ideally, what happens is you'll end up with your best year. And so our clients, the ability to have this fast execution has changed their business. They get involved in our next 90 business evolution process, which implements the fast execution. And they now every quarter know what matters most. They develop their tactical plan. They have a system of accountability and transparency. And no different to us, I'll share with you. Here's we have our 3 objectives mapped out for this quarter for Circle Leadership. We have our 3 key results and how we're measuring them. In our system, you can see confidence rating, how we're progressing to them. So this is transparent for everybody to see. And then we can go to my tasks. And then you can see here's all the stuff that needs to be done. You can see I'm a little bit behind on a couple of things here. Some stuff happened over the Christmas break that I chose to partake in, which was actually family time. Got a surprise visit from my daughter and decided to spend time with her. So a few things didn't get done, but I got started on them. And now I'm finishing them up this week. So I've already spoken to our team and what we're doing and how we're working with it. Because in the end, and this is no different to us at our organization, you can have execution or you can have excuses. You can have execution or you can have excuses. It's your choice. So we have a plan here. You can see of all the things and all the dates. So when Lisa and I meet, we met on Monday. We talked about all the things that needed to happen this week and who's doing what and where. At this stage, a lot of it's on me because she's in the learning process. But here, these are the things that I need to get done, and I have time blocked out tomorrow to do those things. And to catch up today on some of the things that I fell behind on during the end of December. But the beauty is we have transparency, and I have to own it. So let me just stop that. So please understand that if you want to get your year off to a fast start, you need focus, accountability, simplicity, and transparency. This just wasn't something that we created, and it sounded like a cool acronym, which is really awesome that it works out that way. Is part of the study with the case study. Then we did further studies later on the year with clients once we rolled out our process, and we found that some clients were executing at a far greater rate than others. And we said, well, why is that happening? What are they doing differently to some of the other clients? And we found out, we studied that, and it was their ability to focus. They had systems of accountability in their organization, the simplicity of the planning that they did, the transparency that they already had existing in their organization. Then we also studied other businesses, and it came out the same thing. And that's how we decided to create fast execution for all our clients and get this simple process mapped out so that people can start executing. Because you create some amazing strategies for your business. You come up with some really amazing objectives. But if you're not able to execute on them and hold people to account and keep a simple plan and be transparent about it, it won't matter for anything. Strategies and ideas are fantastic, but execution is worth millions. Something that Steve Jobs once said. So that's what we want to share with you, is to make sure that you have the ability to get your new year off to a fast start. If anybody wants the workbook there with all the instructions on how to do that, please, if you watch this, you're watching this now, put in #FAST. If not, you're watching it later in the comments. I'll see the comments later on the live stream, and we'll get that to you straight away. So you have the workbook to go through and start mapping out your own fast execution for the first quarter of 2022. One of my leaders in my past, he once said to me, how you handle the first quarter sort of dictates how the rest of the year is going to pan out. So if you want to have a really great fast execution this year, well, then you need to get it done in the first quarter, because if you fall behind in the first quarter, then you're always playing catch up. That was what he shared with me, and it served me well over these years. I'll hang around here in the live stream if anybody has any questions. Only got another 3 minutes left, so if there's any questions from anybody watching, I'll hang around to the end of that. But thank you for all of you who have watched this, who will watch this. Really hope you have great success this year, this quarter. Sorry about those technological issues, but hey, we'll iron those out. And really want to be here to help you guys out with this, because it's really important to us that you all evolve and stay relevant. As a Canadian, it was just announced that BlackBerry is no longer in existence. So one of the very first technology companies to bring smartphones, if you want, amazing technology, now no longer exists. It's dead in the water. Another one of the big players that just couldn't evolve and stay relevant. And if all these big businesses that have all the resources available to them, everything like that, can't do it, us as small businesses, we need to be able to make sure that we can evolve and stay relevant. Right? They have more money, more resources, more everything, and they still didn't survive. So what are you doing to evolve your business to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people that you choose to serve, and then work all that out and then start executing fast on that? So if anybody has any questions, please throw them in now. For those of you who are watching at the moment. Other than that, I thank you all, Barb, Bill, for paying attention. Really appreciate your time and comments, and anyone else who's watching this. I wish you all a very happy new year, and may 2022 be whatever you choose it to be.